Hi,
Hey, Yakov, how are you?
hanging in. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good to hear.
Sorry?
Good to hear. Good to
Yeah,
hear.
long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, it's been a long time since we had one of these.
Yeah. Who else is joining today?
I believe Benji was trying to kickstart this, so I would be surprised. And I think he sent a reminder a bit, so I would assume he'd be signing in momentarily,
Oh, okay.
unless he was just trying to facilitate. But I guess we'll see.
Hey, Benji.
Hey folks, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Just Yovi we're waiting for, I guess.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said, Benji, but I think there was one person who said that they weren't going to be able to make it in the end.
Do you remember how that was notified? Was that via GitHub or chat?
I think it was by GitHub, a PR. I'm checking now.
Yes, you're right. That's it. It's there. Okay, cool. I have merged that removal. Okay, well, hello folks. Welcome to the first GraphQL.js working group in a little while. I guess we'll start in the way that we do all meetings. So welcome everyone. By being here, we have all agreed to the specification membership agreement, the participation guidelines, the contribution guide, and the code of conduct, links to which can be found in the agenda. Start with a very quick introduction of the attendees. I'll start with myself. Hi everyone, I'm Benji.
Hi, I'm Yakov. Happy to be here. Happy to be back in one of these meetings.
Hey, I'm Sahaj. I work at the guild. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I guess we should probably take notes. I believe that there is in fact a notes file linked in the agenda, which seems to be valid. So I'll open those up. I'm happy to take notes. If anyone else wants to join in, please do. We don't seem to specifically have anything on the agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to add to the agenda? Otherwise, we'll just do an open discussion of the open issues or whatever people feel like chatting about?
Nothing on my end. I think more for me, this meeting is like, how do we get back the cadence of a regular process of, you know, merging things, and like, what do we want to get out in the next release? Because I think we have a trunk ready for V17 alpha.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. And in fact, I'd love to be caught up with anything that you folks know about these things as well. Because I think V17 alpha has been open for quite a while now, right? Like close to a year, maybe. So knowing what the intended deployment timeline of that is. Another topic that I'd like to know anything about, if you have any knowledge on this, is what we have agreed in terms of backwards compatibility. So, for example, I raised a pull request a little while ago that backported one of the fixes in GraphQL.js just back to the 15 branch. And I was wondering if we have any documentation on whether we still support GraphQL.js 15 and so on. Does anyone know anything about these things?
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think basically the way Ivan had set things or had designed things was that he had designed like long-lived branches and was relying more on like open source interest. Like he would ask people who were interested in things, if fixes being backported, to actually raise a PR to backport it, and I guess if he had time he would, but he asked people to contribute in that way, so that and then he would publish a release if there was interest. So in theory, if things were proceeding according to that, if you had an interest in and then you raised the PR to backport it, then there would be no problem in releasing it. I don't know if that counts as official support, so I'm not sure if that. I think that's the way things were working, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so that is accurate. I think to add on that, we have had discussions in the past to follow like some, LTS process in the sense, how do we deprecate old releases? So let's say like one of the proposals was like, let's just follow Node.js. So if Node is dropping support for these versions, we can also drop support for X version below, but we never like agreed on like anything officially yet.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you both for your input on that. So it sounds like we could, if we wanted to, firm up these policies. But I think that doing it the open source way makes a lot of sense. If someone is keen to get a fix backported, then they should backport the fix. All that we're lacking at the moment is someone to actually go ahead and merge that and release it. So that's definitely something we should work on. On that note, Sahaj, I know you said about getting back to a cadence of releases. What do you need to help that happen?
I don't think any of us here have rights to publish. So I think the first one would be like figuring out who do we get the permissions on NPM to publish. Because I think our last alpha was published September last year for V17. And after that, I think one had issues, so we couldn't do anything. So we never did anything after that.
Okay. I can probably get permission to do publishing if I don't already have it. And I have a vague feeling that I might already have that now in the last month or two. Separate from that, I believe that I've seen that the GitHub Actions can publish because I've used the GitHub Actions like comment in order to publish a PR as I forget what you call it, like a nightly or a canary build or whatever. So theoretically, something already has the ability to do that. We maybe just need to hook into that potentially.
We might have to update like our build flows because the canary one I think publishes and then right away deprecates it, just so people don't get confused with like, oh, I want to use it. So yeah, we can look into like updating the
Interesting.
flows.
Okay, cool. Is that something that you feel that you'd be able to look into the mechanics of?
Yeah, I can help take a look. I can add a task for myself.
That would be great. In the meantime, if we need to get any releases out, then we can probably find a way of doing that. Are you aware of a like a release procedures document in the repository?
I think we have scripts that basically generate the release, like how it has to go. I don't know if there's like anything more detailed how it works.
I was just looking through. The README has a contributing section, but it doesn't seem to detail publishing. We don't seem to have a contributing guide. The scripts, I guess, would be linked from package.js. They have a pre-version, so that seems likely to be used. And then there's a git publish npm and a git publish deno. I wasn't even aware that we published a deno.
Yeah, we have a branch that publishes to Deno each time. I don't know if like many people use it. We don't even have it that much on our docs. Oh, I think that's something to fix in terms of like how do we market like we support Deno out of the box.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. In the short term, figuring out our release flow, I think would be good. And Sahaj, it sounds like you're already going to be doing a fair chunk of that anyway when you look into the GitHub Actions. Do you think you could just write some notes as you go through just to give people like a basic summary of what actually happens? Even just linking out to which
Yeah, I
files
can
are being
document it.
executed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one just from one factoid that I have from a private conversation with Ivan was just that I think our the changelog is I think run through GitHub releases basically, and from what I recall, Ivan was saying that there's a script that basically analyzes the GitHub history. Um, um, I think it's the let's see.
That'd be a conventional changelog or something like that, right?
No, he has this custom script called gen changelog that he then
Okay.
runs and then copied and pasted basically into the release notes. I mean, if I'm not sure but if Sahaj if or Benji, if what you guys are talking about is using like chain sets to or something like that to automate releases, then we could we could use their obviously their um, method of documenting the change log as well.
Okay.
But I think that part was manual, is what I'm getting at.
That's really important data. So thank you for sharing that, Yakov. Yes. So this gen changelog does seem to scan back over the Git revisions and pull details out of that. And what that means is if we're to continue doing that, then the format with which we merge things into the GraphQL.js repository is significant because that will then be represented in the changelog. So that's important. Obviously I haven't read the code yet, but I assume it does things like pulling it out of the git commit message or something, and it will need a particular syntax. It seems to be using labels as well. So yeah, really interesting. That needs some research.
Yeah, there's a couple different labels that Ivan would make sure that everything would fall into, like feature fix, like corresponding to like and breaking, like corresponding to like major, minor, and patch. And then there's like polish and internal, I think, were the other main labels that sort things. But again, that he would run that and then copy and paste it to the GitHub release, and I think manually release it on npm, from what I remember. Now that could be a little bit not up to date. I don't actually remember what the version script, like where that fit in.
Okay. Yeah, still useful data. Do you think you'd be able to do some research on that front and effectively come up with a checklist of getting things merged? Because it sounds like before we merge something, we should make sure it has, at exactly one or at least one of this set of labels, and the commit message should be in this particular format or whatever. If there's any rules like that, it would be a good idea to have those rules written down. Do you think, Yakov, you'd be interested in figuring those out?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, the thought I'm getting is that the goal would be like to document the status quo then before making any changes. Is that an understanding?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds. Yeah, I can try to tackle that.
Okay, great. So I'd like to get to the point where we feel confident merging things into the GraphQL.js repository. So I think finding out what the process has been for the previous things and then trying to match that via a checklist or something like that would be ideal. If we do that, I think it'd be a great idea to then pass it by Ivan and see if Ivan is happy or knows if there's something missing from those checklists. That would be really valuable. It's possible that some of this stuff is documented somewhere as well. I just don't know where to look. So I guess I'll take an action as well to reach out to Ivan and see if any of this is detailed.
One additional factoid. I think Ivan mentioned that the scripts are running using some of his GitHub tokens, if I remember correctly. Like, I mean, I assume in part of Sahaj, maybe what you're looking into is whether that needs to be switched to using some other token. I'm not sure, or maybe it could just continue using his. I'm not sure exactly how it's set up.
It would be good to understand what that situation is. I'm assuming it will continue to work until Ivan revokes access, or the tokens expire. At that point, so long as we understand what the tokens were, we should be able to add replacement tokens. We should have sufficient access for that, I hope. So yeah, documenting what they are so that we know how to fix them when they go wrong would be very valuable.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So I'm just looking at the GraphQL.js working group organization. I'm looking at the issues on there. There are 8 open issues. So I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to sort them by oldest. I'm just going to go through them one at a time to see if any of them are still relevant. So the first one is from 2020, 16th of September. We need to create an issue of needed characteristics for maintainers.
I don't think that's probably still relevant. I think that was part of a discussion. It sounds like it was raised by Uri
Yeah.
about broadening the group, and I think we've like gone past that in several iterations. So.
I think from my understanding as an outsider, that does seem to be the case. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. There is also write a contribution guide.
Yeah, so I mean, I think actually the context is probably no longer relevant, but I think we're talking about doing that right now. So I don't know if we want to close this issue and open a new one, but that's
Sahaj does have a linked pull request open. No, sorry, issue open. That seems to be a meta issue that tracks various things relating to the docs. It might just be that this was one of the things referenced in it. Okay, yeah. I think I'm going to leave that open because we do definitely need a contribution guide, but that is effectively what the two of you will be working on as part of your action items. So I think once we've got the beginnings of that, we can close that, which would be nice. Create an SLA for responding to PRs, issues, and comments. Sahaj, I believe that you were mostly discussing this with Brian Warner. And there may have been some discussion over CLA versus SLA. I don't think we really want an SLA, so I'm happy to close this.
Let's close it.
Perfect. Good. Security bug reports. Apparently the contributing guide links to the Facebook bounty program. Is that still the case?
I don't think we changed it. Let me check.
We don't actually mention security in that contributing file anymore.
Yeah, we removed it, I think.
Oh, interesting. I was looking in the root level for contributing. This is in the GitHub folder. I wonder if this has anything. Okay, yeah, this actually has parts on the release process. Once it's been approved by at least 2 reviewers, we must wait 2 weeks before merging the pull request. This allows for other reviewers to give feedback. Any of the reviewers can go ahead and merge. If a reviewer hasn't responded in 48 hours, feel free to ping them. I think that's a little bit, that's quite a tight deadline.
Oh, that thing, it's
go on.
from like our transcripts from like an old working group that I just wrote it out. So we can work on like what feels better with everyone today.
Okay. Well, this looks like a great place to update when it comes to the action items you're doing. So even just validating what's in there as part of that, I think would be quite good. We don't seem to, so back to issue number 42, we don't seem to have any details in there about the security reporting. I guess really we ought to, we've got a security policy linked in the sidebar. Yes, in fact, I think I wrote this. Embarrassingly, I just remembered. Yeah, so we basically say report it to a TSC member. So I think that's fine. We can go ahead and close that. I will just link that we do have a security policy. Uh, cool. New tutorials. Sahaj, this was your issue.
Yeah, I think it's overall like I think an umbrella issue, like how do we improve documentation of GraphQL.js? Because today it's like it's very scattered, and for
Yeah.
beginners we don't have anything.
Okay, so we'll leave this one open then, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good. We also have blog. So
Yeah, I think blog also follows in the same category, but it's more like, talking about like what we are planning for the next release or what we shipped in previous releases or like any big changes, like, let's say we're onboarding new maintainers or something.
yeah, excellent. Any type kind of communication like this would be fantastic to add. So are you thinking here like a GraphQL.js specific blog or contributing to the main GraphQL blog?
I was thinking GraphQL.js has its blog, but we can maybe like
Cross
bring
post.
everything to like the main GraphQL blog, but like have tags, like have it by, hey, it belongs to GraphQL.js or something.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting line to walk. Absolutely having a GraphQL.js blog, if you want to put a lot of content on there, would be good. If you're just posting a few things a year, then on the main GraphQL blog would also be good. And of course, that's always looking for more content. So that would be great. But one thing that I do want to make sure that we're careful of is that the GraphQL.org blog doesn't get overwhelmed with JS specific content because, of course, GraphQL isn't
Yeah.
just JS, and we don't want to reinforce that stereotype. But yeah, have you any interest in actually writing some of these blog posts?
I can try. I haven't written a blog in a while, but yes.
If you want to collaborate on that as well, like I'm not sure what I can do, but I'm certainly happy to
Yeah.
edit. Yeah, that great. I'm going to leave that open because I think it's valuable to have a blog. Next one is a planned release schedule and long-term support. It says we still haven't delivered V16, so technically this is now valid for V17, but I think we should close it.
Yeah, we can close this one. And then I guess now we started this working group, we can figure out like a better plan on like how do we want to communicate, but how we want to ship all these things.
Yeah. I think that would be good. I think, though, keeping in mind the open source nature, we shouldn't try and be too strict on ourselves. So long as things are happening, that's the main thing. There's a task, explain how instance of issue impacts. Is this related to the multiple domains issue, like when you import GraphQL.js from multiple places?
Yes.
And you were looking to solve this in another way, for example, using symbols, do I remember? Something like that?
Yeah, we talked about symbols, or like in general, we wanted to start with like just the educational piece of like, why do we have this restriction? And then have conversations on like, okay, do we use symbols or like, what are other better ways to solve this issue?
Okay. I personally am of the opinion that there should only be one version of GraphQL.js in use
Yeah.
at a time. But that's my personal opinion, just because I don't think having multiple instances in memory is a good idea. And doing instance of is very direct of like, these are the same thing. Whereas when you start doing other things, there is always a risk that something somewhere will misalign and the bugs become a lot more subtle. I prefer much more explicit bugs that fully crash the process. But yeah, it sounds like that is still relevant, so I'm going to leave that open. Figure out how to publish and release. Oh, that's the one you've just filed for today. So I'll leave that one open. Fantastic. Okay, so those are the main action items are reviewed. Some have been closed, some are still relevant. Is there anything that you would like to discuss at this point? Otherwise, we can have a look at some of the active pull requests.
Nothing on my end.
Maybe not necessarily right now, but whenever convenient. I know that there's a lot of or there may be a lot of different groups of people related to GraphQL.js. For example, reviewers, maintainers. I think I'm maybe a member of something called like reviewers read. And that might at some point want to be streamlined.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. What do you feel, Yakov, that those should be?
Just that we should look at them and prune any that aren't really being used. For example, like if I'm the only member of that, I'm not sure that of that group. I'm not sure that we need it. Um, uh, I don't. Yeah. Just that maybe we should review. I'm trying to figure out where those groups are listed.
So I think probably the teams, I think, under the GraphQL org, so I'll be able to manage those. I think probably we need two roles would be my guess. We need reviewers, which are people that can just look at the code and see whether or not it's reasonable. Potentially people that have had a pull request merged into GraphQL.js before, or maybe a couple. Those might be people that we say, yeah, you can do reviews. Your feedback is, better than Joe Blogs off of the street. And then potentially, I don't know whether we'd call them maintainers or mergers or whatever, people that can actually merge those pull requests. And I would say that they're probably the same people that would be able to do releases as well. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I'm seeing that we currently have is GraphQL.js reviewers right. I think that um, might be one candidate of something that could go. We have collaborators, maintainers, reviewers,
Triage team.
triage team. Yeah. I mean, we could think about make sure that none of these are being used for something necessary that's not 100% clear. I wouldn't want to delete anything that people need, right?
Yeah, it's a good idea. To be honest, like the triage team is Lee, Uri, Sahaj, yourself, and Daniel Reardon. So we can definitely reach out to those people quite easily. Two of them are on the call. Find out whether that is relevant anymore. Yeah, I think simplifying that would be definitely beneficial. Let's file it as an action item, but I don't think it's particularly urgent.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The way I see it, effectively, there's people that can merge stuff and other people that are part of the project. And I think that the barrier to merging stuff is relatively high, right? We want to be confident that if someone's merging something, that's something that we want, but not too high. I think we should have like 4, 5, maybe more people that can actually merge things. And do merge things, right? Because there's actually quite a large, like theoretically, any of the TSC could merge things, but they're probably not going to. Yeah. Okay, cool. Streamlining that sounds very wise. So thinking about it, I don't think there's much point looking too much into the pull requests at this point because we won't be able to action them because we need the action items that you both have to find out what needs to be done before we merge. So I guess at this point we could go ahead and close. I just want to see what Yovi mentioned. Be review on and related pull requests. Oh yeah, so Yovi's interested in the passing fragment arguments, getting some eyeballs on that. So yeah, I think one of the big problems that we're going to have coming up is what to do with the backlog of pull requests. And I think probably what we'll do for that is just basically declare pull request bankruptcy, put the stale label on everything. Every single pull request gets the stale label, and then we'll remove it as they get more commits. And then after a few months, if things haven't been updated to the latest, then we can close those. Does that feel okay? This is a decision we can take later anyway. I'll just float it at this point.
I mean, ideally, I would like to, go through them all and like categorize them and maybe ping the, I mean, adding stale is a way of pinging them, but I think, yeah, I think that makes sense in general. That's an ideal world, obviously. I mean,
Yeah,
my
100
major, yeah, yeah, my
113 pull
major.
requests is quite a lot to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I've gone. I think there's about 60 of them that I've already like eyeballed at least once. But I mean, my main limiting factor is definitely the time that I have. I have time, for instance, to come to meetings and hopefully say that I'll try to do things, but then we'll see how much I get done. So I think one thing we might want to think about is maybe how we can broaden the group of people interested in attending meetings like these and being part of the that group of people that merges and reviews. There's so much that I would like to do that I don't get to do. I'm sure we want things to be moving. I'm sure maybe more eyes and hands and would be great. I don't know how we can advertise more, but that might be one idea.
Yeah, I think the best way of doing that is to find people who are actively contributing or trying to contribute and to enable them. So find where the latest pull requests are coming from and try and get those people more involved. I'm a bit worried that the velocity of GraphQL.js slowed down quite a lot. And I think some of the contributors may have become less interested in contributing for that reason. So showing some momentum behind this again would be good. And I think starting with the contributing docs to actually detail to ourselves how to go about doing stuff and then getting some of these pull requests merged and getting some releases out, I think will start to attract more attention and hopefully get more people contributing again. That's my hope.
Sounds good.
Okay. If there is nothing else, then it's been lovely chatting with you all, and I'll see you next month.
See you. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thanks so much, Benji, for instigating and leading.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.